Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. Quick info before we begin. Today's video has two stories and both of them have updates. Now let's get started with the first one. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user ClearSheepHerder63. Am I the a-hole for refusing to spend my money on my stepdaughter's wedding? My wife passed away when my sons were 8 and 4 respectively. Since then, I remarried and my new wife and I have been married for some 11 years now. She herself was married before and had a daughter of her own from her own past marriage. Her ex-husband's story is its own saga, but suffice it to say, he's alive but isn't in their life anymore. When we married, my sons were 13 and 9 respectively, and my stepdaughter was 12. For 11 years, I tried to make some bridges. I would get her gifts and try to make sure she always got what she wanted. I did everything I could to make her happy. I would drive her to school and be at her extracurricular activities, and I paid for the nicest private schools I could. Not to mention, I worked day and night so I could give her the lifestyle she deserved. My wife is a housewife, a choice she made after she voluntarily quit her job in marketing. I tried my best and treated her just like my sons, but she continued to hate me. This all came to a head specifically when my stepdaughter graduated 5 years ago. While my eldest son had invited my wife, his stepmom, to his graduation, my stepdaughter refused to invite me. She had 2 tickets, but she only invited her mother. Her grandparents refused as they live in my wife's native country. When I asked why, she said, "You're not my dad, you didn't raise me, and I don't want you in my life." I was very heartbroken. I tried very hard for her to like me, but she hated me. Still, I paid for her college. I paid for both of my sons' colleges as well. Nevertheless, a few months back, she informed my wife that she will be getting married. I only found out when my wife told me. What was more devastating is that she said she would come home to celebrate, and I brought cake and balloons and so much more. Then, last minute, she changed plans. She just told my wife that she could come over to her apartment without my sons and me. I was shattered. When I did eventually call to congratulate her, she just tried to end the conversation as quickly as she could. The last thing I asked was maybe the honor to have a father-daughter dance with her, which she shot down. I said nothing, but then came the bill, and my wife said she needed some money for her wedding. I considered it long and hard, but as she didn't consider me like a father, I said I would not be paying for her wedding. I told my wife that she had money saved up. It was her choice to use it if she wanted, but I would not be paying for her wedding. She was furious at me. She said she barely had any money saved up and I was being an awful person. I have received calls from all of my wife's family telling me that I should pay, mainly her immediate family, like my father-in-law and my brother-in-law. The whole thing has become a mess. It has divided our family, but I'm still holding my ground. Am I the a-hole? Well, OP, in my opinion, no, you're not the a-hole. You are just doing what your stepdaughter asked you to do, to get out of her life. From what you tell us, you tried for 11 years to build a relationship with this girl. She never wanted one. I honestly don't know why you would ask her if she'd give you the honor of a daughter-father dance when she never considered you a father. You shouldn't have put yourself in that position. But anyways, the thing is, she doesn't want a relationship with you, and that's fine, that's her prerogative. But then she doesn't get to ask for you to pay for her wedding. That is just ridiculous. So yeah, OP, in summary, no, you're not the a-hole, and I don't know what's up with your father-in-law and your brother-in-law that they just called you up to tell you that you should pay for the wedding. What the hell is that about? No. That is your decision to make, OP. And what do you guys think about this whole situation? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they had to say. Sarpo Fan says, not the a-hole. Your stepdaughter said you are not her dad. You are not obliged to pay for her wedding since you are not her dad. Even though you tried and supported her, ask them to ask for money from her biological dad. That's the very least they can do. At this age, her daughter will never accept you as a father figure, so you can accept that fact and act accordingly. Apricot Gus says, not the a-hole. She said you aren't her father and she treats you the way she does but expects you to foot the bill for her wedding? Nope. What's your wife's role in all of this? Did she try to help you build a relationship with her daughter at all? Why was she so okay with the way her daughter treated you all these years? Maybe time to rethink your marriage? Tell your wife's family that they are more than welcome to pay for the wedding since they feel they have a say in the matter. Adventures of Violet says, not the a-hole. Frankly, your wife holds a lot of responsibility as to why your stepdaughter does not respect you. It would appear that you paying for private school and paying for her college is not a good enough reason for your wife to have some very strong conversations with your daughter about respect and what family actually means. Additional information from OP's comments. So, for context, after our fight during her graduation, I was really devastated. I cried for maybe the first time since my first wife had died. I didn't really know what to say. I think she felt like I was trying to replace her father, but I just wanted to be there for her. It's hard being a teenager, and it is even harder to be one without a dad. And the story of a real dad is complicated, and I'm not at liberty to discuss it, but there is no way of contacting him. I've always tried to make sure she didn't feel like there was no one in her corner. I knew she liked astronomy, so I got her a telescope, a solar system model, and took her to observatories, etc. Nothing. I went to her soccer games. I was the dad that would bring the best snacks and picked her up from school, basically every day. But still nothing. I tried everything and anything and have always gotten the same result. Absolutely nothing. My wife tried to talk to her and she said, just give her some space, and I'm sure she didn't mean it. I just want my stepdaughter to know what she does hurts me very deeply. I really did care for her and I tried my best to make sure she had everything. I swear I did, and I just don't know what else I could have possibly done. And for those of you asking about my wife and I, our age gap is 7 years. I met her after my first business went bankrupt and when I had just started this one. She was actually a relative of my friend. I met her through her at an event for her birthday, and originally, as we were the only parents at the party, we just talked about our kids. We had a few picnics and then we went on some proper dates, and then we eventually got married. My wife is amazing and I love her to death. She is a doting and loving wife, and truly, she runs a phenomenal household. I certainly would not be where I am without my wife. She's definitely not a gold digger. I think inevitably I will end up paying for it. She has treated my bio sons as her own and they love her like she is their mom. Moreover, before this, it has always been both of our money. Half of my bank accounts are in her name. If my wife does pull the money, it will be of her own free will. So, to be clear, I'm not physically preventing her, I'm just telling her that I do not support it. I don't think she will, but if that is something she is willing to do, that would be her prerogative, not mine. My wife asked me to pay for the majority of the wedding. I would end up paying between 70 to 80%. The whole cost of her wedding is estimated to be around $200,000, so I'd pay around $160,000, which I can afford luckily, as her fiance's family is covering as much as they can. And no disrespect to them, I've spoken very briefly to them, but they simply aren't as financially stable due to a variety of unfortunate events during the pandemic. My wife says after she is married, she is no longer her or my responsibility. Traditionally, in Indian culture, after a daughter is married, she becomes the responsibility of the husband's family, or so my wife told me. Also, we don't experience the same societal pressures as Indian people in general, but Indian women specifically do in this context. The more I talk to some Indian Redditors, it is becoming apparent to me that I should do this for my wife and give our daughter the cash. I am hoping I can get her to go to counseling with me and can use the check as an incentive, or maybe just an opportunity to talk with her. OP's edit. I want to be clear, I will absolutely be paying for my son's wedding when it comes. I want to also clarify that this is going to be far from a minor financial inconvenience. While I am sufficiently wealthy, it is not something that will not go easy on my bank account. As some of you got from a couple of my responses, my wife's family is Indian. Her ex-husband was Indian and my stepdaughter is Indian. Her wedding is going to have probably around 400 to 600 people. Some of you have DM'd me questions about my life. Yes, I do have one son with my wife. My wife had her daughter when she was quite young, 19, and we had a baby boy. It was not planned and he is now 3 after my daughter graduated. I wished to keep parts of my life hidden because they were not important to this story, but some of you have mentioned that this may be important to the story as it may have impacted my relationship with my daughter. I assure you, she was just as cold with me before the baby, and the event at her graduation happened before my daughter even knew about the pregnancy. Alright, well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and that he shouldn't pay for the wedding, but apparently there's something that we didn't know about that came out in the comments, and that is that OP's wife and her daughter and all that family is Indian, so there's a different cultural background. And from what OP tells us, the right thing to do would be to pay for the wedding even though the stepdaughter sucks, since it wouldn't be for her, but it would be for OP's wife. And that being the case, considering everything that OP has said about his wife and how wonderful she is, if he does pay for the wedding, I wouldn't fault him. I still think he's right to not pay for it, but if he's going to do it for his wife, I wouldn't fault him for it like I said. Anyways, let's move on to the update to see what happened next and how the story ends, but before that, here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now let's move on with the update. After reading some of your comments, a lot of thinking, and a long conversation with my wife and I came to a decision. Firstly, my wife understands where I am coming from. In the original conversation with my wife, I put my foot down without properly explaining my reasoning behind that decision. I was just angry and I should have communicated better. After explaining, however, my wife sympathized with me and said she doesn't know what the right thing to do here is, but that she will do whatever I think is right. After some thinking, we came to the following conclusion. For what it's worth, we will give her $50,000. This is more than plenty for a great wedding. It's less than a third of the $160,000 she wanted from us, and a quarter of the estimated $200,000 her wedding was going to cost. Not to mention, her fiancé's dad is himself giving her around $50,000, between $40,000 and $60,000. My wife also further informed our daughter that neither of us will be attending the wedding. This was a decision my wife made of her own volition. After informing her of the call, she came to our home to pick up the check. We told her that this would be the last money we would be giving her. She said that it was better we cut her out of our life anyway, as she didn't want me to ruin her new life. My wife and I were angry, but everyone held their tongue. She left and she will no longer be a part of our life. The check has already been given, unfortunately, and I am a man of my word. Alright, well, at least he didn't pay the full amount like the stepdaughter wanted, but he paid enough so that his wife could save face, hopefully. And what about that last comment, while picking up the check, just saying, you know what, and just cut me out of your life because I don't want you to ruin my new life. Oh, go F yourself, you person. I'm really sorry, OP, but I guess she's just a crappy kind of person, so I guess good riddance. Also, here's wishing you and your wife and your sons all the best in the future, OP. Take care and thank you for sharing. Now, let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user AITA.Hoarder. Am I the a-hole for not telling my husband about all my reward points cards? I, 29 female, have been married to my husband, 30 male, for 9 years. I am a stay-at-home mom with 4 beautiful children, 8, 6, 4, and 2. My husband makes $150,000 plus a year, but decides where every dollar and cent goes. 50% to day-to-day expenses, 25% to the children's education savings, 10% to family savings, 7.5% to his personal spending, and 7.5% to my personal spending. Any bonus he makes or money back from taxes goes immediately into retirement. Doing it this way leaves us no money for vacations or big trips. Since we got married and moved in with each other, I have been completely responsible for all of the shopping, whether it is clothes, groceries, furniture, or whatever else. I learned very early on with the help of my mom how to coupon clips and how to use point cards to their maximum potential. I usually get 2 or 3 different reward points and save 10 to 25% per transaction that I do. My husband only knew about the coupon clipping, not the rewards points. For the past 5 years, I have been going on a girls' trip with my family every year. I have been telling my husband that my sisters, sister-in-law, mom, and grandma had been paying for me to go since I can't afford it. But in reality, I have been using the rewards points to pay for the ticket, using rewards to pay for our groceries, and using my difference to pay off my credit cards so that I am able to go on the trip. This year, my brothers-in-law, father, and grandfather decided to go on their own boys' trip and invited my husband. My husband told them that unless they can help him as the girls help me, he would have to decline the invite. My brother responded to him with, "What do you mean? She says you pay for her to go." My husband confronted me about the situation and I confessed to him what I have been doing. He was extremely hurt, saying that with all these points we could have done a lot more as a family rather than just one person hoarding them all to themselves. And if I set him up with his own credit cards to get even more points, it could have been a lot easier for us to do big family vacations. My entire family has been calling me selfish and a jerk for not being more open about the points, but I feel that I work very hard to get to the points levels I've gotten to, and that making them more open for use would burn through them quickly and not allow them to be used for bigger things. I think I may be wrong to have kept all my reward points to myself and reaped the benefits of them rather than sharing them with my husband and family. So, am I the a-hole? Well, OP, it sounds to me like everybody sucks here, and there's one thing that would make just a huge difference, and that is what you said at the beginning, that your husband decides where every single dollar and cent goes. If that is literally the case, then everybody sucks, and my only question at that point would be, OP, why didn't you ever talk to your husband about it? Was this some sort of taboo topic or what? But in any case, OP, you knew that what you were doing was not right because you were lying to everybody about it, and that's the bit that makes you the a-hole. So in summary, OP, everybody sucks unless you did have a say in the family budget planning. In that case, you would be the a-hole. And what do you guys think about this whole situation? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Jeepers Creepers 74 says, "You're the a-hole, mostly for the lying, but also your budget is very neatly split into common household expenses and personal spending. You leveraged the common household expenses to increase your personal spending capacity. Your husband is right, the points earned on using the cards for day-to-day expenses, and if they were for kids' education, should have been used for the benefit of the family." Antique Challenge 182 says, "I'm gonna go with everybody sucks here. You for lying to your husband and him for being so controlling with the budget and not involving you more, and both of you for your lack of communication overall. I get why you felt like you needed to use the reward cards to pay for that trip, but you should have just been vulnerable with your husband and asked to be more involved in the budget and setting aside another one for trips. Did you ever voice this need to him?" Illiteracy, quote, 7.5% to his personal spending and 7.5% to my personal spending, end quote. So in this rare scenario of a stay-at-home mom actually getting an even fair split of all the income, you have been secretly utilizing what would be joint money to go on trips without your husband and lying about how it's paid for to everyone? Clearly he's capable of budgeting and saving, so saving points for something big would have seemingly been fine. You're the a-hole. From this end, you appear to be a selfish lying manipulator. Additional information from OP's comments. The breakdown is 50% for day-to-day expenses, which include my vehicle, gas, and insurance. The 7.5% is entirely mine to do whatever I want. I get air miles for the flights, PC points for the groceries, and I have 3 credit cards that give me one or the other. I always have other reward cards, but everything is filtered through the cards. Actually, my mom is the absolute champion of it. When we do things like Thanksgiving or Easter at my parents' place, it's like $750 to $1,000 spent, and she does it all with her points, plus birthdays, plus gifts. We have talked about budgeting for a trip before, but he said not yet. He wants to retire young, give our children the best education they can, and get a bigger and nicer place. With his current plan, he can retire at 50. Everything will be paid off and our kids will have around $200,000 for their education. For kids, less than $9,000 each a year. The idea is for them to afford to go to whatever university they want without taking out loans, and whatever is left over afterward goes to them starting their own life, like moving to a new city or buying a house. If I'm being honest, I don't know why I lied to begin with. I continued to lie for fear of disappointing him or hurting him. I really enjoyed having the points to myself and using them for whatever I wished, and I think my husband is more hurt about the lying than not having control over the points. OP's edit. I wanted to clarify some things before I get to the actual update. Yes, married young. It is a common practice in my religion. We have known each other and have gone to the same church since we were 10. We dated while we were teenagers, but always knew we wanted to marry each other. He proposed to me the second he saw me after coming home from his mission, and we got married 6 months later. This was exactly what I wanted. My husband is not abusive. While he does dictate how much we spend and on what, he doesn't even look at the accounts except for maybe once every 3 months. Almost everything is automated. I know more about what goes on in that account than he does. He does not hold the money over me. He is also the sweetest, most caring, loving individual I have ever met. He regularly volunteers for the community and our church, helps out regularly around the house, makes sure to spend time with each of our children, and makes sure I feel loved and wanted. Me being a stay-at-home mom is not free childcare. I'm taking the time to watch over my own children. They are as much mine as they are his. Saying it is free childcare would be like calling my husband a free gardener every time he mows the lawn, or calling me a free maid every time I clean the house. I agreed on the budget early on. It seemed like a good plan, and we agreed that it would change and grow as our family does and he moves on in his career. Okay, so the community sways between you're the a-hole and everybody sucks, and on that last sentence that OP said that she agreed on the budget, my judgment shifts to you're the a-hole. Anyways, let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. If I filtered all the he's abusive posts out of the rating, it is clear that I am the jerk. I honestly don't know why I lied about it in the beginning, but I know I carried on with the lie because of the shame and fear of disappointing or hurting him. When I found a way to go on these girls' trips, I was proud of the fact that I was able to do it my own way, which is why I got selfish with the points. This wasn't fair. So last night, I made my husband a cup of tea after we put the kids to bed, and we sat down and talked it out. I talked about my desire to see the world as he has. He went to Italy for his mission, and how I have only ever been to Utah and my own province before going on the girls' trips, most of which were a week in Mexico or on a cruise. He told me that he wishes that I included him in my plan as he includes me in his. He was hurt that I felt I had to hide the cards or how I'm paying for these vacations. He also told me that next year his boss is planning to retire and he is the next in line for succession. The position would give him more vacation, a larger bonus, and a $50,000 a year pay increase. They have just been talking about it this week and he was waiting for the weekend to tell me. He is happy with the way the budget is, and with this pay increase we could use the entirety of it for family vacations. With the addition of the points that he will now help me get, we could probably go on 2 big trips a year. This made me feel a lot better about the future. So this weekend, thanks to someone who posted that I could be doing better, we are modifying my points gathering, applying for some new cards for him, and planning our first real vacation as a family for next year. I cried when I read a lot of the post. I felt a lot of shame for how I behaved, but I also felt very sad that anyone could think my husband was abusive. Please ask for more clarification before jumping straight to the "he's abusive, leave him," or "prepare for him to leave you." Not everyone is like that. Alright OP, well you're definitely happy, so I'm gonna count this as a happy update. Hopefully all the vacation planning goes great and you guys have an awesome holiday next time. Take care OP, and thank you so much for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.